From India to Africa, this is the Wild Eye Podcast. Hey everybody, my name is Gerry, I'm from Wild Eye. Now as you might have seen, I've just returned from a private guided trip that took me to the Masai Mara in Kenya, the Serengeti in Tanzania, and Sabi Sabi in South Africa. In this episode, I sit down with Johan and Michael Applesammy. They've just returned from hosting our incredible India safari, and it took them to 4 parks in India. They hosted this incredible experience, which, I mean, the amount of tigers they saw was just quite ridiculous. I walked past Michael Applesammy's desk early on and was looking at some images and video. Absolutely stunning. Now, I haven't been to India yet like these guys have. So in this episode, we just sit down and have a chat about their experience, compare it to Africa, and just a nice conversation after our trips. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Okay, so let's do this. Where were you guys just now?
So we just got back from hosting the incredible India tour, which was roughly about 2 weeks, just shy of 2 weeks. Ended up going to 4 parks out there in India, which was amazing, absolutely incredible. I mean, Johan's hosted the trip a couple of times before, but it was the first time for me. Mm-hmm. And mind-blowing. Yeah. Really, really mind-blowing.
I have to ask a question that everybody's wondering.
Yeah.
Did it feel like going home?
Honestly, I mean, Johan knows how much of a struggle it is to get visas and stuff like that. Not for mine. Easy.
It's like a couple of days.
Yeah, like within 24 hours, I had my visa approved, sorted. It was so good.
So it was meant to be.
Exactly.
Heritage works, eh?
Exactly.
Exactly. He's coming back home.
Did you have people waiting at the airport?
Of course. It was family. Like there was a whole family tree waiting.
About 2,000 people, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
Johan, you've done this before, eh?
Yes. Yeah, always nice to be back. It's just so different. I think that minute you land in Delhi, it's just chaos, and I think it strikes you, hits you in the face pretty much from like the minute you arrive. But then, we don't spend much time in the cities. It's literally one night there on the way in, and then we go to the forest, and that's. I mean, I said to Mike, and I always say to the clients, it's actually a miracle if you think of a country that's got like 1.4 billion people now. They've still got these massive areas set aside for conservation, and people are really passionate about it. We can chat about later on about how people that haven't been there, their experience, but once you get understanding for it and what it's all about, I think people have a little bit more clarity with their thought process.
So just before we get into it, what is the itinerary from a broad view?
So we start off, as Johan says, we start off in Delhi. We stay over there for a night, and from there we head up to I've got to remember the names now. So Tadoba National Park.
Yeah. So you fly into Nagpur and then into Tadoba from there.
Yeah. Then from Tadoba, we transfer to the next place, which is Pench National Park. Mm-hmm. From Pench National Park, we then move up to Kana National Park, and then eventually to the final one, Banavgarh. So between those 4 national parks, like Johan says, from Delhi we have a small flight into Nagpur, and then we have a transfer into Tadoba.
Do you drive the rest of them?
The rest of the places is then all driving transfers.
Okay. Yeah,
so those are the 4 parks that we visit, all within the Pug Dundee Safaris. What's the word I'm looking for?
Collection,
exactly. Yeah.
So what are they called again?
Pug Dundee.
Pug Dundee.
Yeah, so we'll stay at all of their lodges, beautiful lodges, all of them very, very different in their own ways.
Okay.
But very comfortable. It was really a good stay.
How would you describe the accommodation? Is it like, because where I'm coming from, because I was away at the same time as you guys, I did Mara, which is Mara Serena, which is up on the hill, which is kind of like, it's like I want to say sausage factory because there's very small rooms. They do it well, but they do 80 people. Mm-hmm. Then I went to Serengeti to Nasikia camps. I don't know if you've been there.
Yes.
Yeah. So big tent, but very basic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I was at Earth Lodge Sabi Sabi. So that's all over the show.
Yeah.
So how would you classify the accommodation at these places?
I think it's kind of, compared to South Africa, it's kind of like your mid-range. I'd say.
Would it be closer to Mara Serena or Earth Lodge?
Sort of more Earth Lodge from size and kind of luxury, but not over the top.
Yeah.
Not over
the top.
All the destinations.
Yeah.
Yeah, generally, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The biggest one we stayed is the last lodge, which is King's Camp, and I think they've got 21 rooms or something like.
Yeah.
The rest of them is like 8 rooms.
Yeah, max 6.
But how does that then translate? Because you mentioned, Johan, earlier on about the experience. People diss the experience because from what I've seen, and I haven't been yet, but from what I've seen, it's a shit show on the roads and people driving and there's cars everywhere. So how does it translate from being so exclusive accommodation wise to help me there?
So look, there's lots of levels of accommodation, and I think for the reason the parks are so busy is because they cater for the local people. And if you think about it, if you understand how any national park or reserve works, if you don't get the buy-in from the local people, it's never going to work. If Kruger, for example, if Kruger National Park said it's going to be 2,000 Rand entrance fee per person going in, you don't get no one coming in there, and then if you don't have that money coming in, you can't pay the anti-poaching guys and maintain it and so forth. So, so India is not yet that much of an international travelers destination, so it's focused on the local people, and they've got the buy-in from the local people. You can see everyone's got their like tiger shirts on and tiger hats, and it's a thing.
So the majority of the people in these places is locals?
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably like 80, almost 85%.
Oh, wow. And then is it the same then where, I know in the Mara, for example, you pay $80, $90 a day as an international traveller, but then the local guys pay 2,000 shillings or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, you get a lot of people going into into the parks. Some parks have got different zones. So you've got like zone A that you're assigned to, and you can't move out of that, which also spreads those vehicles out a bit.
That's the lottery system. Is that?
Well, we can actually decide the zones we go into when you book the permits. So our guys will now. So the booking process will open up in September, October for next year, and then our guys will then, just so to make sure we're not in the same zone every single time. You get to see a bit of all the zones, and we also get a bit of info from the local guys on the ground. If there's a particular tiger in an area that's got like a whole bunch of cubs, kind of want to spend most of our time there, depending on where the good sightings are.
Okay, the permit system. Sorry, I've heard from you guys in the past. So I've heard of a lottery system where you go in the morning and the guy goes and you get a lottery and you get 2 or zone A, B, C, whatever. So let's say now you've booked zone A for next year.
Yeah.
And you get there and there's just no tigers there. You cannot cross into zone B. No discussion, no asking nicely, no bribing, no nothing.
No.
Oh.
No.
I mean, we noticed it with my situation, just trying to get new permits and all of that. It was an interesting...
Just help us with the situation, just describe to people what you mean.
Long story short, I mean, I ended up going on the trip.
Yeah, Trevor was supposed to be
going a week before. That ended up changing.
Sure.
And Johan and them had to jump onto getting new permits and things like that for me. So obviously, like I say, with a week's notice, we were there over Easter weekend as well, so a lot of locals were traveling. So we struggled at one of the places specifically to get permits, new permits for me. But we managed, of course, made a plan.
You're basically local.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that just also puts it into perspective. It's kind of set in stone how the permits do work. And
and I heard somewhere, I don't know if it was you guys talking in the office one day, Johan, where you can apparently buy a permit that takes you through all the zones, or a full day or a half day.
Yeah.
How does that work? Yeah,
so you can get a full day permit, but that's obviously a lot more expensive. That gets you, and you can stay out the whole day.
Is it worth it?
In April, it's so hot.
Yeah.
Like it's
really
like 40s.
Yeah,
You're talking
40s.
Celsius. No.
Celsius.
It's like monopools in October.
Oh,
So by like 9, 10 o'clock, you
want to get back.
You have breakfast and you're ready to head back and get into the air-conditioned room.
Okay.
Yeah.
But also just the way the trip is laid out. So I mean, you mentioned now that tigers, and you might not have tigers in your particular zone. So I think it's been over the years. I think we've got it down to the T now. The first place we started, Todoba, has got phenomenal tiger viewing.
Okay.
The first few days, I think we had like 5 or 6.
4 or 5 tigers.
Tigers in the first few days.
Yeah.
So that immediately takes the pressure off people. Then when we get to Pench and Kana, we say to people, okay, well, let's focus on the general stuff, because there's so many deers, the bird life is incredible, the monkeys, and often if you just focus on tigers, then you come home with a very one-dimensional plain catalogue. So we then focus, during that sort of 6 nights, you then focus on the general stuff and the birds, because you've got those tigers already, you've banked that. and then you end off in Banavgar, where I think this year we had 15 or something
Individuals.
Including
that one crazy sighting with 5 of them in one little waterhole.
What, mom and youngsters?
Mom, youngsters,
Yeah.
and then like a stepbrother type of thing. Yeah, a bit of a weird dynamic with the male.
The
but
male that came in.
Beautiful tension in the group.
No,
Yeah,
not
weird.
at all, actually. And our guide was explaining to us, how that specific male's taken quite an interesting role. So if I remember correctly, I think he's the half brother. So he shares the same father as those sub-adults.
Right.
But usually he said, they would generally get quite aggressive, even in that situation. But he says that male specifically is kind of just waiting. His father is apparently a huge tiger. And I think as that father's getting a bit older, he's kind of waiting for his chance to now take his...
Okay.
Whatever lays his
position
in the
future
tiger
tiger
kingdom. Exactly.
Folklore, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so never have you been? So I was, and you've been to Serengeti and Mara and Sabi Sabi.
Yeah.
You've been to Sabi Sabi.
Correct, yeah.
And the Mara.
And the Mara.
So for people who haven't been to India, if you compare those, the Serengeti ecosystem, which is pretty diverse, from like flat until there's riverine and so on, plus then the Mara with the rolling hills, and then Sabi Sabi. Describe to me what the ecosystem looks like. Which is it closest to?
Oh. It's a tough one because it's really unlike anything that we have. So you get the first place to Durban, we've got like massive bamboo thickets.
It's called the forest because we're talking about savanna, grassland, forest.
Yeah. So it's a proper forest. Todoba and Pench almost in a way. I would say it's more. If I had to compare it to any place, it probably Madikwe almost in a way. It's quite a hard.
Thick.
Thick, but it's bamboo.
Yeah.
And then Kana is like unlike anything. It's almost like those redwood forests you get in.
Exactly. But at the same time as well, Kana was probably the most unique park I felt amongst the 4 that we visited. Just like Johan says, you've got these thick forests at one point, you've got these beautiful ravines, like rivers in between it. And then you get to a point where it's just like openness, almost grassland type of feel. Yeah. So that was that's probably the one place you could match closest to the Serengeti or the Mara, the likes of.
Yeah.
Just because of those patches of openness.
And what would a normal day like be? So just to come in from my side, so in Mara we went at 6 o'clock, we had coffee, we took our picnic breakfast box, which was very random.
Yeah.
Very random box. We would go and drive, have it, come back for lunch, go out in the afternoon, dinner at the lodge. Serengeti, we took lunch and breakfast, so we went out for full days. And then Sabi is kind of structured around the lodge, so you would go out, have coffee, come back, breakfast, lunch, go out, drinks, dinner.
Yeah.
How is a normal day structured, or is it also different park to park?
So a typical day would be, park to park was a little bit different just based on how far the park was from the actual lodge.
Because you don't stay in the park any of these.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Correct. So generally all the lodges we stayed at were within the buffer zone of the park and society or whatever. But anyway, typical day we were up generally between 5 and 6 o'clock, anywhere between there, meeting up for coffee. And then we would drive maybe, some lodges it was between 15 minutes to the camp or to the park.
Yeah.
Up to about half an hour. Sorry?
Sunrise? What time?
Sunrise was just after 6,
So as you get in, you kind of...
you kind of
get the
in that
sunrise.
orange, and then we got to those parks, we'd line up, get in as soon as they open, and then we would drive generally for about 3 hours or so, depending obviously on the morning. Then the guys had a packed breakfast for us at all of the parks, so that was really nice. Very, very nice array of good old Indian food. From start to finish.
Okay, wait. Let's go there. So you say breakfast what was in your breakfast box, or how did they present this?
So it's in different tins. So every morning we had boiled eggs.
So for people, the different tin is those 3 things on top of each other.
Yeah, those
and they
silver.
kind of open up,
The silver. So it was boiled eggs was every morning. Then it was like a variety of like breads, almost
breads,
like
muffins.
That was made like almost like a banana bread, but with the maua fruit, which is it's amazing.
It's good.
It's
a good fruit.
It's like these little flowers, but they actually make alcohol out of it. So it's
very sweet. I mean, it's like that smell exists wherever you go. Beautiful. It's delicious.
Yes, you got eggs. You got these mahua fruit
muffins,
bread.
And then we had like sometimes we had like chicken rotis
for breakfast.
Nice.
There was always like a traditional, typical Indian type of food thrown in there somewhere, you know.
And then coffee and tea in it.
Yeah,
exactly.
But they don't have milk, obviously. So it's all like cremora, like a creamer powder.
Yeah.
So it's like
we had so have you done a trip out of Serena?
Yes.
Okay, you've done Serena?
I haven't, no.
So that also, you can get a box. So you can either say a normal box, which is like a normal, or you can get a vegetarian box.
Yeah.
Joni took a vegetarian box, and Ken and myself took the normal box. I don't know how, it's almost like, I think the chef gets drunk the night before, and then the morning hungover, he just goes in and he just puts whatever he can find.
Yeah.
Some days there was an egg, other days not. There was always a chocolate,
Yeah.
like a Cadbury's bar or something, and then they put them in brown paper packets, so you never know what it is.
Yeah.
You open it up, it's like a croissant, but it sounds like a croissant. And some days there's a yogurt, some days you get salt, other days it is the most random thing. One of our best moments every morning was opening this thing up and seeing what's inside. This was very strange.
But that's one thing they can't get right in East Africa is
They
like
can't.
muffins or cakes. You need like 2 liters of water to try and get that down because you just blow it. It's like dust.
So Serena makes this, I mean, Joni called it pound cake.
Yeah.
Like that, it looks like a lemon cake, but it's like a loaf of, it looks like banana bread, but it's not.
Yeah.
And it is the most random, because if you were to sit and close your eyes and pretend really hard, it's almost nice.
Yeah.
But it is not, it's nice enough that when you're tired, you're going to have like another piece.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, it's really shit.
Yeah.
But they've got this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Every moment you turn
Nice.
around, there's like a piece of pound cake.
Yeah.
But they can't. How difficult would it be to just do a normal breakfast? Just something basic. And it doesn't have to be major.
Yeah.
Like even, honestly, like a chicken roti
Yeah.
and a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
good to go.
No,
No, exactly.
Oh.
No, it's everywhere. Kenya, Tanzania, if you see a muffin, you can guarantee you
You
need
kill
like
someone with it.
two cups of coffee to get that thing down,
Yeah,
at least.
no, it is. It's like powdered muffin or something.
It's like butter doesn't exist. Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
Like, it's like
No,
no,
exactly.
butter. That
Honest question, do you think they make them en masse like a few days before? Because they don't feel, and it's not pointing fingers at any lodge here, but just in general, because at the Mara camp, we're small, so we can do
Yeah.
small scale.
Yeah.
But if you have 160 people at a lodge, are they baking 162, 300 muffins every morning?
No, I think they
Because
must.
those muffins don't seem like it.
No.
Maybe like Sunday, let's bake for the next 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
like, put them randomly, and whichever one you pick, it might be a day old, it might be a week old. It's up to you.
We had a great time every morning opening our box. It's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Literally the only standard thing was the chocolate
Yeah.
and the nuts. Those out of African nuts.
Oh, yes.
We had
Yeah.
those in Carnival.
Those are good
They're
though.
pretty good.
Those are always winners, yeah.
Anyway, so let's go back. So you have your chicken roti and your cup of coffee with powdered cream milk, whatever, with it.
Yeah.
Then what?
Then generally from there you sort of slowly start making your way back, back to camp. We did have to, with our permits, we had to be out by a specific time.
What is that?
It was generally 11:30.
11:30, yeah.
Do you see authorities driving around? Rangers or... So you do see them, they have a
Yeah.
presence.
Yeah.
In fact, you have a field guide. They call them field guides
of course,
in the
business
vehicle.
driver.
Exactly.
Does he engage?
They try.
Some of them do.
Some of them try.
Yeah.
Their English is very limited.
Yeah.
Or for some of them, their English is limited.
Yeah.
But they generally do, put in an effort, and
Yeah.
they'll name the animal or whatever.
Did you have the same guy every day? Obviously, driver guide, yes.
Yeah.
But this ranger
Forest
person,
guard? No.
they rotate.
Rotate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So out at 11, then what? Back to camp, lodge, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the lodge. And also just to get back to those forest guides, I think that's also another great thing that makes those parks sustainable, is creating the job opportunities for them. As an outsider, you might think, what's the point of this? But from what I understand, is a lot of these guys previously were involved in low-level poaching.
Yeah.
It might not necessarily be for tigers, but could be for the meat trade or whatever it might be. So
Mm.
creating these job opportunities, and it's a lot. It's a lot of jobs they're creating.
So every vehicle has one of them.
Every vehicle.
You can't self-drive.
No.
Because I remember, this was random, going to Uganda for the first time, and you go chimp tracking. And we get our guide, and he's got a big gun, and he's got his camo, and you walk with him into the bush and so on. And you start chatting to the guy, and they were almost all of them were poachers.
Yeah.
And there's something special there, but did they in India dial it up? Do you know about it, or do you have to go fish about it? Or do they lead with that? Because that's a good story.
Yeah. I think a lot of them will sort of speak about it. I think if you ask the questions, I think obviously for us, coming from a sort of tourism and conservation background, it's you want to know these things. You want to know, and you also see that human-animal conflict. It's very close. Up to the minute you drive through the gates, there's villages, and there's no fence around the park.
So it's more right East Africa than Southern Africa.
Absolutely,
with the buffer zones, massai villages. And stuff.
Certainly,
Okay.
And what's great as well, I mean, all of these field guides, you see them in the morning on your way to the gate. There, they're walking out of their houses right there. So of course, as Johan says, as much as it's maybe their background, it's also it's sustaining those villages, keeping them happy, keeping these parks available.
I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. Same like when I drove up to Sabi, so I flew into Serengeti. But when you drive to Sabi, you're driving through Bushback Ridge, you're driving through all these small villages, and there's often the question, but why don't they move, or why don't they still poach like they used to? Is because through the monetization of tourism in the area, they understand the value. They're feeding their families, because your husband might be, your wife might be a housekeeper or a chef or a maid, whatever, and the guys are trackers and whatever. It's like, it's all there, so it's a good thing to know. Sustains the local community.
Yeah, we always say, I mean, for conservation to work, those local communities have to benefit from those parks being there, and basically, those animals need to be worth more alive than dead to the people. So if that's not the case, there's no ways, whether it be rhinos, lions, tigers, whatever it might be.
Is tiger poaching still a thing?
Not anymore. But it was big, eh? Like
tiger wine, or tiger bone, or tiger wine, lion wine that they make from the bones.
Yeah.
I read an article recently somewhere in South Africa still. They found people selling the lion wine made from lion bones, but it started from the tigers.
Yeah. But if you listen to the stories of the kings and how many tigers they shot, just
really?
for like as a status
How
thing.
long ago are we talking here?
It was like
100 years.
no, but
Not
even like
really?
sort of 1920s,
Oh, wow.
1920s, 1930s.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's a lot of those parks, 1960s, 70s that started, when tiger populations really took a dive, and they actually did a census
now. They released the
analysis.
numbers, for 2022.
Yeah.
And they were up.
It's going
numbers
up.
are up. Yeah, and it has been up for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of work going into it that's paying off.
Yeah.
So.
But it's amazing, even as you drive through some of the some of the villages are very, very basic, especially like Todoba and Pench. Kana and Banaf is more like a little town that you're going through, but along the way you see the shops and there's little tigers or tiger key rings or tiger shirts or tiger jackets. You don't actually realize
the locals are buying.
Yeah, it's a massive thing.
So I just as we're going, tigers once roamed across Asia. Their numbers as high as 100,000 at the start of the 20th century, before it started to plummet to the brink of extinction. By 2006, the population in India, home to the majority of them, hit a record low of just 1,411. Decades of conservation efforts appears to have finally paid off. India's tigers have made more than doubled since then. This is 2023, reaching 3,167 at the end of last year.
Yeah.
So 70% of the world's tiger population stands at 4,500 worldwide.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Did you know that there are more tigers in captivity in Texas than re-roaming in the world?
In
Exactly.
Texas alone?
Yeah.
Really? I
There's
did
more
not know that.
tigers in captivity in Texas than there is in the world
crazy.
wildlife population.
Wow, that's a
crazy.
scary number.
That's crazy.
That's messed up. Anyway, so let's go back.
Yeah.
So you've had your chicken roti,
Yeah.
and now you're driving back to the camp. What happens?
Then kind of
Normal safari type vibe?
Yeah, it's often like lunch is pretty much like we had lunch about 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it was so dusty the first two destinations. So everyone goes and has a shower and lunch about 1ish, and then we were out again by like 2:30.
So there's no time for lunch. You can
No.
go back, freshen up, have some chow and then go.
Yeah, I mean we had a few like sort of hours, 1 hour sessions, but it's a full day.
Yeah, and it's generally quite hot at that time as well. And the bedrooms are the only rooms with air condition. So generally you do find guests wanting to go back to their...
So the whole group comes to your room and you all Lightroom there. Let's do this.
Exactly.
Oh wow! And then evening game drive, so to speak, same routine.
Yeah, very typical. I mean, again, have to be back just after sunset.
Back at the lodge
Or
out the reserve?
Out of the reserve.
And do you stop for drinks like we normally do? And
No.
None of that?
No, you get like a lemon water in the back of the cooler box, which is like
good stuff.
Rehydrates you, but there's no like beers or wine or something on the vehicle.
Is it allowed? Or not really allowed?
No,
I don't actually think so.
think it's allowed. No.
We had a I think, because Luke told us we have to speak about all the safaris, So we're at Sabi, and we decided we're going to stay with these two lions, two males, the Kajima or John and
the one with the mane.
Yeah, the male lion with the big mane. Yeah. So we sit there, and so we decided, and he said to everybody, we're going to park there for the evening. Because we're up to 77 lions on the whole trip, so we're good.
Yeah.
So we parked there, we've got it, the sun's going to set there, everything. It became windy and it rained, but different story. Didn't rain, just the clouds. Anyway, so it was our last night of this whole 12 days, so we didn't have champagne in the car. Now the car pulls up, so Joni and I sitting with a glass of champagne. The other people took pictures of our vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
Because we like, cheers with the lion, selfie, lion, da da da.
Yeah.
And it was just how do I say this? It was a reminder of the experience that we create, because we didn't take pictures of these two male lions. They were they were up and yawning and stuff.
Yeah.
But you focus on experience.
Exactly.
So how would you describe to someone who's going to come to India the difference between the photography and the experience, and how do you balance that?
So, I mean, first of all, I think it's managing those expectations from the word go, and that's what Mike and I spoke about. Is on the first night we'll brief them, and even for people listening that are thinking of going to India, is don't go in with the mindset of, first of all, that you're going to have a private safari experience. Know that from the word go. It's not going to be Botswana or like a Sabi Sands kind of experience. So don't expect that. But also be open-minded about the experience. And if you look at, during the whole 13 days, like there's maybe one sighting, which I think was our first tiger, where I thought, where this tiger wanted to cross the road and people just got excited.
How many vehicles are we talking?
That was maybe 30 cars.
Okay. Is that dramatically high?
It's quite a lot.
I think that's abnormal.
Yeah.
Like an abnormal sighting. Generally, you may be sitting with 10 to 15?
Yeah.
On an average sighting.
Yeah.
Average, I would say.
And, we can compare that now to each and every single destination. I always say there's like a good and a bad. And people say, but in this place in South Africa that we stayed at, we only allowed 2 vehicles. Yes, but if it's a busy sighting, you're only spending 10 minutes there.
Yeah.
10 or 15 minutes, then you have to move on, and you might potentially miss out.
So there's no limit on time?
There's no limit on time there, but the guys are pretty good in giving each other a chance, whether you photographers or taking photos with your phone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think also the fact that we kind of hit the ground running with tigers. When we got towards the end, we weren't part of the rush anymore.
Yeah, we were a bit more selective about the tiger sightings.
The guy would say, "Well, guys, there's a tiger there." We're like, "Okay, cool. What's the view?" He's like, "No, it's a little bit far. Okay, let's leave it.
Yeah.
We can go and sit and often then find our own tiger. So."
Yeah.
I think it's exactly that, is not to force it. I think anywhere you go, the way we've done it now is you've got enough time at the parks.
And enough tigers by the side of it.
And enough tigers, but it's the same as our Mara camp. Don't go into the Mara for migration and go for 2 nights.
No.
And try and race around, because you're going to stress yourself out. I think it's the same everywhere. Is give yourself enough time in a particular area that... Same as like what we do with gorillas, don't just go for one trek, because it happens so quickly. Yeah. You're going to be flustered. You're going to put pressure on yourself from a photographic point of view. Yeah. Whereas towards the end, if we could take wine on the vehicle, I think a lot of the guests would at the end just have a glass of wine and look at this tiger that's in front of you.
That's an interesting thing. If you only do one gorilla track or one Mara drive or one, is it fair to say, just off the top of the head, that you might get some images? More drives will give you better images, but you might get some images, but you're missing the experience.
Yeah.
That's often people get there and they just and you might get some images. The more you do something, the better it gets, because you understand your subject more, you know what you want, what you get, how it works.
Yeah.
But the more time you invest, and I'm just thinking as I'm saying this, the more time you invest per destination, the better your experience becomes. Forget about the images.
Yeah.
The images you'll get. You can go in and rattle off 10,000 images you can. I've seen this on a gorilla track, on one.
Yeah.
But your images will be better the next time, but your experience gets better regardless. The longer you spend.
Yeah.
Did all of the guests who joined you, have they all done Africa before?
Yeah.
Yes.
All of them have done that.
Yeah.
And it was all of their first times in India?
Some of the guests had been there before, but not more the cultural side.
Yeah.
Okay, people.
Yeah.
And did you guys do any of that?
No.
No, not really. I mean, besides
You were burning to, weren't you?
I was like the culture act.
Did you tell stories of history and acting and little dances?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice,
No,
nice.
I'm joking.
but yeah, I totally agree with the time thing that you, because also with more time, you open up more conversations, you get to learn more
Yeah.
about species in there, about the people. And I think our Mara camp is the perfect thing. Can you imagine if you were there for 1 or 2 nights?
Oh, no.
You just
start settling
photograph.
in and you gotta leave.
And
Yeah.
the magic happens that sort of last 2 nights where people are comfortable, they've relaxed, they're now settled into the home, and now they're sitting around the fire
Yeah.
and having deep conversations with Dixon and Tenke or with us. And that's where I think the true
Yeah.
connections are made.
It's almost you have to, on anything like that, from an experience point of view, and I'm assuming this is the same for a trip like you guys just did.
Yeah.
And for Jody and I, so we know each other well. There was my client who was with me now on my Serengeti, Mara, Sabi Sabi. We've known each other well, but still the first few days you're settling into the rhythm, and then a wall comes down. A wall comes down in the way that you're happy to talk about sports, life, insecurities, or just shut up and not say anything for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And what you said there, after a while at the Mara camp, 2, 3, 4 days, the walls come down, and then only you're finally open to the experience.
Exactly.
Where those short distance, those guys who do Mara one night, Nakuru one night, and Baseli one night, fly home.
Oh man.
You can't do
You'll
that.
never experience it. Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. So overall, for you being it your first time,
Yeah.
Mike, you've done Africa now. You've done quite a few reserves. What struck you as different, and what was the same to an African safari experience?
Sure. What struck me as different and what was the same? Well, I definitely think, obviously the culture side of things, maybe, we obviously didn't dive right into that, but you still really experience it to the full. When you're at these lodges, I thought Pagdandi, their staff was incredible at all of the lodges. We got to spend time with the managers. The food, the food experience was unreal. I didn't have the same curry at one meal. It's like every single meal is a different experience, different area. They go out of their way to do that. So I think that was very different.
Okay.
Shucks, and what was the same? It's quite a hard one to pinpoint.
So while you think about that, the reason I'm asking is Africa as a whole. I'm talking the big destinations, even Botswana and all that. But East Africa, Serengeti, Tanzania, Mara, Kenya, South Africa, we have the hospitality thing pretty waxed. Like the transfers in, the welcome at the lodge, the people coming to dance, everything's pretty waxed. I remember going to Canada years ago, and they said I'm staying at one of the top 7 lodges in Canada. I'm like, fuck, I'm expecting Londo's or St. Kitts. Dude, we're talking like warm baths.
Yeah.
And this is like a top 7. I'm like, dude, you guys are kidding. But they did it as well as they could. But there's something special and very finessed, for lack of a better word, in South African and East African safari hospitality and the management thereof.
Yeah.
Is it the same?
I don't think so. I think it is slightly different. I definitely agree that here in East Africa, South Africa, you can't quite compare it. We're definitely above the standards there, and but take nothing away from what they do offer.
No.
But I think maybe to pinpoint something that I felt was similar is, often you're driving around, it's beautiful out there, very, very different environments and stuff. But at one point you get somewhere, you all of a sudden hear an alarm call off in the distance, you switch off the vehicle, everyone's quiet.
Yeah.
You're still in nature, and it's incredible. As different as it is, it's still that same experience where you can actually just stop, switch off, and nothing else matters in that moment.
You're present.
Exactly.
Present. No off-road driving.
No.
Ever. No way. No chance.
Not at all.
Are there private reserves where you can?
I believe there are, but I think it's few and far between. I think the other thing that's also different is it's like you're using different senses. Like you're talking about, like probably about 90% of it is hearing, listening to alarm calls, like spot the deer. And Where for us, often in East Africa, it's binos, scanning those vast open plains and
Yes.
stopping to scan
Or
or tracking. Whereas for them, it's stopping to listen.
That's
That's it.
pretty much all they rely on is hearing.
So can you please indulge me and help me out? What does a spotted deer alarm call sound like?
Just like that. That actually
Exactly
wasn't
like
too
it.
bad. That was spot
So
on.
basically like a
Got me
very
looking for a tiger.
cocaine up wild dog.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So, but
Sure.
yeah, so that was quite an interesting adjustment.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I wanted to add on to what Johan was saying just now about, all of the vehicles and sometimes, a lot of people, this and that. What's quite nice about stretching out our experience like we do is with a lot of locals coming into these parks, it's amazing to see how excited they get. And, there's the glimpse of a tiger and those cell phones are out.
Oh, really?
But that's what it is. It's they might stay there for 10, 15 minutes, snap away with their cameras, and from there it's like they move on, So that allows us as well to kind of slip in where we can.
I wonder what the difference, why do you think that those people are they're taking, because I look at places, and I saw this in Sabi, in South Africa, I saw this in Serengeti and Kenya, where there's local people or buses or whatever coming past, but I don't see that. I don't see it to that level.
Yeah.
Of taking pictures, sharing this out, wearing the t-shirts. It's almost like, and I could be 100% wrong here, but it feels like there's a little bit of blaseness about it.
Yeah.
I wonder what that is. Does the government push it? Do they have is there a campaign where, I don't know if you watch TV or whatever, was there a campaign that says we're going to save these things, this is our money? I wonder what the difference is. And look, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I do think that I see a lot of local people in South Africa who work in these areas and who are surrounded, or they drive through these areas, and they're just like, oh, there's another leopard. And they just carry on.
Yeah, I think it's also the history of the tigers, and it's more of a symbol to them than African wildlife is for us, if that makes sense. So, you can look back at old statues, old paintings, it's got tigers in there. So it's got a little bit more of a meaning than just there's this animal or like
Isn't
the big
there
fire.
royal relevance, like for the royalty
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah, and it just showcases that or represents that strength and power.
Yeah.
So I think it's got a little bit of a different meaning to what the wildlife does in Africa for us. But
I also wonder, and I'm just thinking about what I said, I do think there are people, but if we have big five and then you've got 20 other large mammals, some people might just be more into elephants or than to leopards, and so maybe it's just because it's from the one icon species, maybe it's just filtered down in South Africa or in Africa, because I might like leopards, you dig rhinos.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just interesting thing.
But the thing for us as well is we've outpriced it for our local people.
Very much so.
Exactly.
I mean, if
That's a
we
very good point.
if we potentially had like a Londo, Sabi, Mala Mala, or any of those lodges in Madikwe on the sands, if we had like a South African rate of, what do you pay for bed and breakfast? 800, 700, 800 rand per person per night. I would love to see the faces of a lot of South African people
They see the stuff.
to see not only the game viewing and the parks, but the service and the lodge and those kind of things. Because a lot of people don't get to experience that.
Do you remember what happened in COVID? So when COVID happened, obviously the whole industry stopped.
Yeah.
And nobody could travel internationally, so the borders were closed. And when the provincial borders then opened up, a lot of the lodges went onto Facebook and said, hey, we're running South African specials. You can come now for, let's say it was normally 10,000 Rand per person per night. We're now doing it for 1,500 Rand per person per night.
Yeah.
But you have to book 3 nights back to back. And the outroar, I remember on Facebook, there was an uproar because a lot of the local people then went, screw you guys.
Yeah.
You now need us.
Yeah.
So we're not going to come and support you because normally we can't go there. I'm thinking you guys are all idiots.
Yeah.
Go. You suddenly have an opportunity to do this.
Go and do
but
it.
now people are like, oh no, you didn't. But it's quite right. I mean, I would love to have some friends and family experience the places we go to.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And see the service levels and the food and.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing.
I would even like to see some lodges have a requirement to say, if you're in this reserve, you have to, in a year's time, you have to have X amount of bed nights that's taken up by local people.
Yeah.
Because that's how we drive forward our message of, it's all good and stuff. We say this thing about rhino poaching and how bad it is, but unless it hits you in the face, unless you go and see it in person and you go into the Greater Kruger and you see the dehorned rhinos, that's when the message hits home and that's when the word gets spread.
100%. It's that thing. Like, it's not about what you say to someone; it's what you make them feel. And the only way to make someone feel that is to put them there. Sit there with the sun rising, grass waving. There's a rhino walking with the off horn. Suddenly, it means something.
But I think the Indian government definitely do something right there because, we were sitting at a waterhole the one time waiting for a tiger, hopefully to come down, didn't come down, but we sat there and we spoke with our guide. And he was telling us about, all of these parks have a tiger or tigress that was like the tiger.
Do they still go by numbers?
In some places, but they also name them once the tiger is broken away from the mom.
So you get like your Scar or your Tim.
Exactly.
Or those big numbers.
Exactly. I mean, and he was telling us a story about this one queen tigress. I can't remember the name, but so passionate about this tiger. I mean, even to the point that when this tiger ended up dying, they gave it like a burial, a full-on traditional burial. Yeah. And you could see, I mean, this guy was getting emotional when he was talking about this, showing us like his last photos. He was like, look, I got one of the last photos, So they definitely do something there. I mean, how amazing would it be to see that on our locals and
I just want to, people listening, we're not being disillusioned here. There is definitely a passion for wildlife love in South Africa, in Kenya. Yes. But from what you guys are telling me, it just feels like it's different there.
It's more accessible.
Yeah, and I think it's still a new thing.
Meaning?
Like the parks and the tourism thing, it's still very much a new experience. And I think a lot of the stuff that they're doing, they are getting from Africa. Understanding how these sort of lodges, and I think Brazil, very similar. Speaking to Ricardo, they look up to African guides and things and try and get some ideas and I mean we had the guys asking us about when's the best time to go to Africa and I mean I said imagine how cool it would be to take like 3 or 4 of those guides, bring them into Africa and take some of our guides there and just compare notes.
It's a word, you have to do that. What is the best time to go there?
I'd say like the time where we went now, March, April. It's hot as anything, but
does it get hotter after that?
May. Yeah, but that must be stupid.
They say like something like 50 on average degrees Celsius.
Yeah. And then it's rainy season.
After that,
They do the parks close?
A lot of the parks close in June. I think June, July, August, September. I think October they open up again. Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to see it in a different way with the rain and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it would definitely be a little bit more challenging. We kind of bank on the water holes when we, that's how you do your game drives from water hole to water hole. So yeah, that's kind of how it goes.
And you're both hosting this next year?
No, myself and Trevor are hosting it next year.
Okay. Yeah. And as of the time of this recording, is there still spaces available?
There's still 5 spaces available.
So basically, if you want to travel with a local, like yourself, you want to go to India, hit you up, eh?
Definitely.
And also, for people wanting to go, it is, I think there's a lot of, I'm not going to try to do this as politically correct as possible, but I think there's a lot of people and places that try and market a tiger experience to be better than in India, and for me, I don't think it is. I think you have to have everything that it offers.
Wait, come back. Say that again.
So like a tiger viewing experience in South Africa or Botswana or Tanzania, it might be more private, but it's not it absolutely gets my blood boiling when people say that's a better experience than in India, because it's not. Yes, it might be a little bit more private, but it's not the real thing. It's not there's a certain kind of almost like a mystery about tigers in that forest. Hearing it and you hear those calls getting louder and louder and louder. Yeah. There's actually a beautiful sign outside Banafgard to say, but thank you so much for visiting. Don't worry, if you didn't see me, I saw you.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Of this tiger. And so that's exactly it. You can hear these alarm calls coming closer, but you don't see the tiger, but you know it's looking at you.
Yeah.
And then when you get a glimpse of this animal and it's in that forest and coming into the open, it's like a wow factor.
I think I agree. There's a couple of places in South Africa where they've got their tigers and you can go there and they're up close and whatever.
Yeah.
The argument, I suppose, is it a better photographic experience? Depends what you're after. Is it a better overall experience? 100% not.
No.
Because everything in life has a cost.
Yeah.
Everything. So the value of sitting in the forest in Pinch or Kana, whatever these places are, right? And sitting, turning the car off, sitting there waiting. Yes, there might be 5 other vehicles close by. That's the cost for that experience.
Yeah.
And I think the cost of going to another place that has tigers, that you can go and get great photographs, the cost there is the lack of experience, the lack of the bigger experience, of traveling to those places, of having your chicken rotis in the morning, of knowing you got to get up, of dying of heat at 11:15 in the morning. Those cost elements are actually part of the experience.
Yeah.
And I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
100% right.
And I mean, if you look at the Serengeti or the Masai Mara, sometimes you get a lot of vehicles there. It's like saying it's then better to go to a 2,000 hectare reserve and see lions and photograph them there than what it is going into these big open systems.
Because when you sit in that sighting and then at 16:42 in the afternoon there's 20 cars around a cheetah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Get your shots now, guys. We don't like it. Let's leave. At 5:45, when you're sitting and it's quiet in the vehicle and you've got this hill with the tree and the sun going down, there it is.
Yeah.
It's just it's all the bad and the good. You have to take it together.
Yeah. And like we say, every single place, we keep on saying every single place there's a negative.
If you're critical, we can pull any place apart.
Exactly.
You literally can.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Then we wouldn't travel. I wouldn't leave the office then. Going anywhere. Because it's the upside and downside to everything. Is the upside worth the downside? Is having 15 vehicles in a tiger sighting worth the total experience? Yeah.
That curry makes it worth it. Eh?
Yeah, I know.
So this is apparently a thing. It's called Delhi Belly. Did we have any of that?
No, we were strong.
We didn't even smash one Imodium on the trip.
Nothing.
Came back with a full box.
Well, you've been there many times, and you have
guts of steel.
Yeah, exactly.
You're basically in anyway. So
It was just natural for me. Yeah.
Nice. Anyway, so you're hosting next year.
Yeah.
What's your next trip this year coming up?
Next trip is one of the first weeks in the Mara.
So July.
At the camp. Yeah, July. Yeah, sort of 16th of July I leave.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Up until then, you got a big thing coming up.
I got my wedding coming up. Yeah, 16th of June, so counting those days down. But yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
How's the arrangements coming along?
It's coming on well. I must say, she's on it. Carla is...
She's doing everything you just said yes.
But that's the next question. Are you just saying yes, or are you actively involved in choosing the flowers and choosing, or do you just say yes, that's nice?
I'm actively involved in the stuff that like really affects me. So like my suit and stuff like that. Eh?
So basically you're not. Gotcha.
No, so but it's all coming along.
Nice.
It's coming along, thank you.
Honeymoon? Can you say what
honeymoon
was a surprise?
No, it's not a surprise. We are hoping to head up to the sands or somewhere up there.
Nice.
And then maybe go stay 2-3 nights at one of the Lacquer lodges, and then we want to go do some self-driving in Kruger.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Lacquer, man. And when are you traveling again?
10th of May. We're going to Zambia, to Lower Zambezi. So
That's
our first trip to with Tuscan Maine. So super stoked with that. I got a video of the dogs there, which is now 40 odd in the pack. So
you and Mike hosting that?
Yeah.
Other Mike?
Yeah, so we two different camps, we just swap halfway around.
That's very cool.
That's going
to be very amped to get back there, yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll link up all email addresses and Instagrams in the description of the video. Otherwise we'll chat after your wedding or before. We'll see how it goes, see how the stress levels go, and we'll chat when you're back.
Perfect, 100.
Thank you guys.
Thanks guys.
Thank
you.
Bye. Okay, so there you go. Sounds like an amazing trip. If you want to join Mike next year, him and Trevor, get in touch. I will put all of our email addresses and Instagram handles in the description of this episode. And get in touch if you have any questions. As always, guys, thanks for listening. Thank you for lending us your ears. I will chat to you in the next episode. My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye. Bye for now.